Hello, you are listening to the Gamer Librarian Podcast, the best podcast you can find on this side of the multiverse. I am your host Adrian, and today I will be talking about Monster Hunter Wilds, Dragon Ball Daima, and more. Afterwards, be sure to subscribe to notify when future episodes are released, and show your support by liking and leaving a comment. Thank you for joining. And we are back on another glorious Monday afternoon. It looks great outside. It makes me just excited for summer and everything. Maybe we'll record an episode that'll be outside, outdoors, touching grass. I think that would be pretty fun. But this week is pretty hot. We got a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. For starters, right? It was Pokemon Day earlier, which is pretty cool. So they announced things like Pokemon Z and Champions, and then like add-ons for their already existing games. And I just gotta say, Pokemon is bad now. It's just not worth it. Not worth money, time, effort. I can't believe that we're in this era of Pokemon, like 20 years later. I can't believe it. And these are the games that we're getting. Not that they're bad games. Not that they're bad games at all. But like Arceus Legends was kind of fun. But it definitely did not feel like a Switch-worthy game. And when did it come out? 2020, 2021. I barely remember playing it, to be honest. But it really wasn't even worth it. I didn't like it. And then they had Sword and Shield, I think, is after, right? That one was relatively cool with its openness, but everything else was really bad. I mean, just the gyms and everything else awful. Really not good. I know that Champions is pretty fun. You can use like your Pokemon Home Pokemon from all your other games and battle on the phone. And I'm just like, that's something that should have came out immediately with Pokemon Home in like 2016 when they started that. That should have been an immediate like launch, and we're getting it now, 10 years later almost, and then like on the phone and maybe the Switch, a version of it on the Switch. I don't know. It's very odd. I didn't even watch the presentation. I just saw what was announced and stuff because I don't care about the cards or anything else. I care about what like new mainline games that they're frontlining. I'm a big fan of the shows, even the newest shows, um, from Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, the Legends or whatever. All of them is really fun, but the games are just not what they are for the most highest grossing media franchise in the world to be one of the most laughing stock games out there every time they come out or they're announced, they're shown off. It's just actually deplorable. So it really irks me to see Pokemon in this state. And I'm not saying that Z or A in Champions is bad, but I just don't like that the games look like that and the games don't have any real innovation or add on to anything that's really in older Pokemon games. Like we don't need them to be super open world. We need them to be fun. And it's like you look at all these other RPG games out there in the world, and Pokemon doesn't do anything nearly close to what they do in terms of just role play or gameplay experience. I'm not talking about just capturing Pokemon, making them battle. I'm talking about just like the process of playing a Pokemon game. Some of that's pretty fun. You have things like, breeding, there's mini games, fishing, all those kinds of things that could be better. I think they all of them could be better in the Pokemon games. And yeah, that's just Pokemon Day, right? That was the 27th or something. Congratulations to Tekken 8 for crossing the 3 million sold milestone after the first year, which is great, right? I figured it would outpace Tekken 7 because Tekken 7 was like already so large. It's definitely pretty good to see that the games that do good before, if they do well again, it's just even better. So that's just really awesome. I know Tekken 7 had a pretty, different kind of launch, right? It went from arcade release into console, and then like maybe it was free to play at some point, just at some point like on Sony and stuff. And it's even on Xbox, which is awesome at the time. And Tekken 8 is just bigger and better, right? So pretty awesome for Tekken. Something I did not expect to be talking about was more The Walking Dead, and I'm a big Walking Dead fan. We've talked about it many times on the podcast. I like the entire franchise, but something I never thought would come back ever again would be the TV shows. I thought they were done. I thought they would be over. I literally thought none of them would ever get a sequel, except for like the Daryl show. I didn't watch season 2 of Daryl, and I guess I'm gonna have to now because there's even a worse sequel. The Walking Dead Dead City, right? It has season 2. Just it's crazy. I completely even forgot that like Daryl season 2 even came out until I remembered Dead City trailer came out to talk about here, and I'm just like, wow, it's so jarring. I thought these shows would be over. I can't believe they're doing more. And the trailer looks interesting. It does look interesting. It doesn't tease all that much, but it does give, a good overview of maybe what it's about. And I don't know. I'm not. too excited, but it's just weird to see more of the show. There's been some weird talks with the comics I see online with like prequels or stuff about villains or some other stuff. And I think that's because like the deluxe edition, the colorized versions are coming out probably to an end, and they're just doing more. But hey, at least Walking Dead's doing pretty good. We got more comic stuff to talk about later specifically. And so George R. R. Martin teased that he's working and helping on the Elden Ring movie or something like that. And he would give that in an interview during like IGN Fan Fest. And I thought that was pretty cool that like, he's, knows that they're making a movie or trying to, and maybe they're trying to get some insight into him on some stuff. Because I think it's pretty cool. I think the Elden Ring lore is pretty awesome as how it's adapted from something that's sourced from George R. R. Martin and then turned into the game that we get to play. That's pretty cool. So I would be interested to see what kind of movie comes out. Another big movie, Until Dawn filmmakers on adapting the game to the big screen. And hey, that seems pretty cool. From the trailer that they showed off, it seemed like they're kind of really twisting the version of the movie towards the game. I feel like that's just fine. I would actually like maybe a more deliberate, thought out like transformation rather than an adaptation. I don't know. I just think it'd be pretty fun and wacky. And I like when video games get big enough to get movies, even if the movies are bad, right? We just talked about Borderlands movie, the only one, the one Borderlands movie being bad, and man, it was really really awful. It was just like they took some really cool things from the Borderlands world and they made it worse. They made it really worse. Like General Knox, I deplorable, awful. So also Brawlhalla is getting Destiny 2 collaboration. That's crazy that Destiny 2 is big enough to just be in Brawlhalla. Because I think it's crazy that like this is it's made by Bungie and all that stuff, but like it's in a fighting game and all this weird stuff. I don't know. I'm glad for Brawlhalla. That's a game that's been kicking it online, free to play from what I know and remember when it like came out in like 2012 or 11. Good for Brawlhalla. I remember I only played it once when I think maybe they added Rayman or someone along those lines because it was free to play like on Game Pass I think at the time, so maybe it still is. But yeah, that's pretty awesome that Destiny 2's doing that. I think they're on their last legs, Destiny 2, and it was a fun ride. I remember Destiny 1 very well, and tried playing Destiny 2, and it's just like, nah, these games don't really hit. They're not really the same kind of games that like, I look forward to. They just weren't there. But Brawlhalla is pretty cool, and we just watched superheroes. We talk about them more soon, but Invincible is getting a superhero tabletop RPG. Now, I don't even much care for the Invincible world. I'm much more interested in seeing what kind of character creator like move set they have and then like the rules. That's pretty cool. The Invincible stuff. We just talked about the Walking Dead comics, right? I remember the same creator. I don't even remember that. That's crazy. Yeah. So Invincible and Walking Dead are made by the same guy, and now they both have tabletop RPGs coming out, which is crazy. Really, really awesome. So Steam just crossed 40 million concurrent players, for some reason making it larger than 80% of the countries in the United Nations. And hey, that's pretty cool. That Steam's got a really big player count of current users, not like old accounts that just aren't being used. It's pretty awesome. I'm a Steam user. I think it's pretty solid. So congratulations on them. And there's talk of like this canceled Twisted Metal game being part like vehicle combat, part shooter, part battle royale. Hey, that's all fine, but there's also that TV show coming out, this season 2 for the TV show, and that's really bad with Anthony Mackie. I hated the TV show. It was really not fun to watch, so I don't know why they're doing a season 2, but maybe I'll watch it. Even if it's bad, I'll still watch it. These next two are kind of the same, just because I saw them all at like the same time. So there's a really good port apparently of Sonic Unleashed coming to PC, which comes from the broader topic that I want to talk about, and that's the 360 PS3 era ROM emulator ports or whatever you would call them onto PC. So like those are the console generations that's pretty difficult to emulate, as far as I know, on PC. Just because I think the way that like their online services work, I could be totally wrong on what is the reason, but I think it's great that we're now in that era where those games are going to be opened up, especially because there's a game on the PS3 I'm specifically trying to play in the future, because there's no port or anything unless they make a Master Collection 2, wink wink. So it's pretty awesome. And I'm totally open for people doing this. I think, if you're not going to make your product available, even for money for free at the very least, um, you shouldn't really get upset if it's online. And I don't care about downloading emulators and ROMs and stuff. So I think that if it's much easier for you on your phone, your laptop, PC to play a ROM of a game rather than pay a console or try to find a disc somewhere, which isn't a bad thing, but finding the hardware is certainly not the same as like just having the game ready to play all at the same time. So I think it's pretty great that we're still in that era where some of these games, even though they're developed on PC, because they're on console as well, there's like discrepancy for how they're ported. And we see that like piracy is a big thing, especially for games that are on the PC as well. Just specifically, I think that Assassin's Creed Shadows was like leaked or something apparently, which is wild considering how big the company is. Like super leaked. The game isn't even out yet. Uh, yeah, yeah. So that's the 360 port stuff, and I hope that comes out to the PS3 specifically because I know a lot of PS3 games are just locked onto that console. A lot of PS3 titles are just locked on that console, and it'd be really fun to go try them out. I never had a PS3 growing up, so yeah, last bit of news, the trend is this last bit of like superhero news really. Magic the Gathering's doing their Spider-Man crossover, so I'm gonna be trying to get some pre-orders of the cards. I only saw a Spider-Man and Venom card, and I'm not really too interested in how the artwork and stuff because like their comics, they specifically already have really good artwork anyway. So I'm not really super interested in how they're going to look there. I just want to use them and play them like in the game. And yeah, they're not Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy is way more of like an interesting kind of artistic concept to have visually on a card. I think Final Fantasy is far superior in that way. And yeah, the bigger topic I want to talk about is the Wonder Woman cancellation from Warner Bros. Game Studios and Warner Bros. Just in general, because Warner Bros. Can't get it together. It's crazy. Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and WB Games San Diego both canceled. I know Monolith is a massive, massive game or game studio. Player First Games, they made multiverses. They canned the studio that made multiverses, which is really awful. I really enjoyed that game, even though people said it did play kind of slow and maybe it didn't play exactly like a Smash Bros. Game. I still think the game had a ton of merit and it was incredibly enjoyable. And there's so many of these layoffs happening in the industry where it's sad to even want to like invest into a game that's maybe a little mediocre because it's just like, oh, why even bother if the studios can get shut down anyway, which is pretty awful, right? It just seems like they can't be saved. Multiverses is this live service game that theoretically could have probably pipelined them money for a very long time. And I think obviously the management with that game is telling just for the management of all of WB, right? And it's crazy like right, it came out with a beta where you could purchase things, and then they canned the beta, and then like a year later the game comes out initially. Huh? So the Wonder Woman game, let's just say that like the Wonder Woman game, we never even saw gameplay for it. There's more of those articles of people talking about, oh yeah, the gameplay was ready and good, and it was so fun. We had so many ideas. I've seen that a lot, like the Last of Us devs or the Sony CEO was talking about The Last of Us, and we've seen that with a lot of other games. And I don't like that. I think if you're going to talk about a game and how its gameplay is, you should be showing off its gameplay. You shouldn't just be saying that, oh yeah, it just works, right? Quote Todd Howard, right? Just works. It's pretty awful what WB is doing. And Suicide Squad, remember Suicide Squad? How that is part of the Arkham universe, and I can't even believe that they're making like these superhero games, and they can't even get those right. They're movies, right? Isn't that crazy? So the Wonder Woman game, it's actually really disappointing to me because I was getting really into Wonder Woman. I was really, really getting into Wonder Woman now with this new game coming on the horizon because of the comics. The current absolute comic, which number 5 is amazing. Number 5 is super fun. It's like the last and like the volume of their first, and I gotta say that is my favorite probably DC single volume that I've ever read. The introduction for Diana and her world. I don't understand all the gods and stuff. I don't super care, but from Diana's perspective and how she just has to do what she can and believe. She's like the last Amazon. There's like no one else. You don't see any other gods really unless it's like a flashback. I'm all for that. It's just Diana doing shit and she does some awesome stuff in that comic. Super super sick stuff. She's got a big sword. She has some other magic and specific abilities. I won't even get to it for them, but I look at this comic and I say, why wasn't this made into a game? Why wasn't this comic the Wonder Woman game? Because the Wonder Woman game, you know, we never saw gameplay for it, so we can only speculate on the little bit that we know of Wonder Woman. And all we know really is that I think she uses like a sword and shield, just like basic. I'm not really super keen on how she super works, but other than like her bracelets and her lasso, she has like super speed and super strength, and then she has like her sword and shield, which is cool, right? And she has flight, I think sometimes. Awesome. That's super awesome with a character like that. That'd be awesome for an action game. Bro, the things he does in the Absolute comics would be insane. Insane. I would love for that to be a game. It would be way better. So I'm actually super disappointed that like this is the world we live in now, where WB can't manage not only their superhero movies, but actually their superhero games. Like it's actually very apparent they don't know what they're doing. And I know I won't be buying another one of their games. I was thinking I was probably done after Arkham Knights. Man, who I have a lot to say about that one, where they switched developers and made the real Arkham devs make Suicide Squad. Bro, that company just needs to go. So, yeah, they just need to go. The W management just needs to be completely rinsed, like washed away. Get Dodes in on it. Let Dodes take over that company and do something better or something. I don't know. It's just very disheartening. And people like their jobs got lost over this because of bad management decisions. Just people who are just like, you know, probably voice actors, right? They probably had a voice actor for Diana already. Probably someone like art direction, someone like they're probably programming moves and levels and stuff. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Um, so besides games that can never ever come out or see the light of day, companies like Capcom again and again make really awesome launches. Monster Hunter Wild's really fun. I'm having a super awesome time playing this game. Um, I played Rise a bit here on the podcast before, and my experience with that was a little iffy. I don't think it's as modern and tuned for gamers. Like World had the same experience for me, which turned me off really early when I first started playing the game because I didn't understand World was like, oh, you go into the world. You have a limited amount of time to fight these things, and then like lives and stuff. I didn't know that, and then I played Rise, and it got a little more familiar. I knew from streamers like Maximilian playing it a little more, and I think the gameplay loop in Wilds is so much better, especially with like the openness of it. You can just go out there on your own and just hunt and fight and do all that. I like it so much better. The um, optimization for it, let alone on the PS5, it works really well. Right? I know that the PC people are having some issues, but I'm playing on PS5 and it runs so good. I don't have any lag. I don't have any like internet interruptions. I played with a buddy of mine. We played for a good amount of time over the weekend, and it was smooth, super smooth, just getting in and out, and then just fighting together was super great. So I'm enjoying this game. We just finished beating like the second octopus thing, Woo Zoo or whatever it is. That was pretty fun. And I'm like HR level 7, somewhere about there. I think the game, like when the campaign ends, the main game, I think uh you get HR 12. That's what my buddy did. So trying to catch up to him, and I'm really enjoying it. I, I know I didn't really enjoy Monster Hunter before in the past, but I think WoW just like the game to get as many new people into it as possible. Like I'm so much more enjoying this game. Now, the game has like those weapon combos, right? Like some of the other Japanese action games. You just pick a weapon and you do the same. attacks and combos, and there's no real mix and matching to any real degree. I think most weapons only have like 3 to 5 combos. I haven't played most of them. I've only done the Switch axe and the hammer mostly, but I am going out for the great sword and I have the bow sometimes, which is pretty fun. I think that using the SOS in the game to get not just AI companions but multiplayer companions as well is a great innovation. You don't do any like menu stuff. You do gotta do it in game while the game runs. So you can't like pause it or anything if you're on a server. So you can just hold the right button and then like hold down and then you press A or X and you summon people and they can just join at their leisure, which is super awesome. I do know that like the time limit thing is part of the gameplay loop, and now I understand that a little bit more and how you gotta kind of play into it with just gather while you're playing and do as much as you can in that time. I understand that, but I just like beating on these monsters. I just like using my switch axe, using affinity, and then wrecking them. Using the wound system is super awesome. The fights are so flashy and crazy. I'm in love with it. I'm dying to just get back and play with it soon, but I am in the middle of a different game. And that's a different game that we're playing through already, and that's Metal Gear Solid. We're on the second game, and I'm playing as Raiden now, right? So we did like the tutorial intro stuff, and now we're in like the main, I think the tanker part, right? We're still using a walkthrough just because it's that game is just a little too confusing to really just do by yourself. And man, it's a movie. This is a movie. There's so many cutscenes. Uh, We're watching a movie. I think it's crazy that this game came out on the PS2 and we're having this much cutscenes. I think it's wild. But I'm super into it. It's pretty cool playing as a different character, and we did specifically get to the part where you meet up with one of the terrorists who I think looks like Snake. That's like the last thing I remember playing it on Friday before Monster Hunter, and yeah, I'm super excited. So I'm gonna try and finish that game before next week, intermittently with Monster Hunter Wilds. So it's been pretty great. I did mention before that was like what game I wanted to come on the PS3 to be either portable or remastered or just playable from like the ROM. That's the fourth game, Metal Gear Solid 4, and I've always wanted to play that one, and that was always a reason for me. Like once I can do that, I can play the other games. I never finished those games, and now that I'm playing these games now, I'm gonna really try and find a way to play Metal Gear Solid 4, um, in some real time. I imagine they'll probably announce that the Master Collection is coming out sometime by the end of this year, but depending on Delta and Metal Gear 3, we'll see what happens in terms of playing Metal Gear 4. I do think it's time for us to talk about our sponsor, Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink that is made to give you focus with no crash, jitters, or angst like other energy drinks. We also have no maltodextrin fillers and don't use artificial dyes. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acid, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. Dubby is an energy drink powder that is produced in FDA registered and inspected facilities in the United States. If you use the coupon code down below, you can get 10% off things like drinks, powders, apparel, portable bottles, stickers, and bags. That's if you use the coupon code down below at checkout. So, besides Wonder Woman comics, right, I've been trying to read Marvel comics lately. This is really just to tie me over until the rest of the Absolute series starts coming around, right? We're going to have like Green Lantern and the Flash. I think sometime March 19th is when those runs start. And then Martian Manhunter on the 26th, which is going to be crazy. The Absolute series is so good. And to be on the counterpart of that, I've been reading Marvel's Ultimate line, their second Ultimate line. I read their first one, or a majority of them, way back when, right? And I have this Miles Morales omnibus, which is he's from the Ultimate World, and then I've read, I think it's the Avengers, which I think the Avengers suck in the original ones. They're kind of dicks. They're kind of like dick people. And then there's obviously the X-Men, Spider-Man Ultimate, like normal Peter Parker, and drawing a blank or something else, but I didn't mind them. That run in like 2000, what is it, like 4, right, or something like that. I liked it. They were pretty cool for what they were, and now we have something even better. Now I won't say the whole world overall is cool. It kind of gives off Secret Wars, kind of, not really, but I really don't want to say too much. But like the world is not the same normal universes, like a regular Marvel universe, like a 616 or variant. Like things probably go off the rails. I think World War II, and then like the everything after there, probably like right there. Not to really give off spoilers for this Ultimate Universe. I think if you're gonna read it, read from the beginning. Start with Ultimate. Like if you're not familiar with the other Ultimate Universe, begin with the first one, obviously. So it's not the first one. If you're not familiar, then for this one, you're going to want to do the Ultimate Invasion and then Ultimate Universe, those two comics specifically. And I think they probably give up a pretty decent setup if you're already familiar. And then we've been reading the Spider-Man stuff. The Spider-Man run of this universe is pretty awesome. It's a different take on Spider-Man. This version is grown up. He already has kids. He's already married MJ, and he gets Spider-Man powers later on. That's literally all as basic as it could be. Super, super cool. This version is awesome. It's actually really endearing to see this version of Peter Parker, and I've actually, super enjoyed the whole run of the comic. I think everything that's been on a panel is on point. There hasn't been a single slow, dull moment that I think wasn't needed or just like padding or stuff. I think like the taste of Spider-Man is really there. They've changed it up in a really great way that's really refreshing, new. I love it. I love it. So my other favorite that we were reading is Black Panther, Ultimate Black Panther. And this is one that I kind of like just because of the premise, but I don't really like the delivery of it in the story, in the overall like story of the comic right now. So basically, the Black Panther, obviously things are the same. Wakanda's in Africa, but the bigger thing is Wakanda is still in secret, but there's this big cult growing in Africa, and the cult is the Khonshu cult or whatever they want to call them, and it's basically obviously Moon Knight. They're technically the adversaries of the Run, so Black Panther's versing Khonshu Moon Knight people, which is kind of cool, kind of cool. Overall, I kind of like some of the stuff in it. It does tie in, it seems, to big overall stuff. There's, you know, not to maybe give a big tease for the next one we're gonna talk about, but Storm is featured here. Storm, obviously gonna marry Black Panther in the original comics, so maybe something will happen here. But Black Panther's already married in the Ultimate comic version, so who can say what could happen? And that goes to my next one, right? We mentioned Storm. There is a version of the X-Men in this Ultimate run, and I think the switch on this is super, super sick. So they change up a lot here. It's a very different comic. The comic is essentially a different art style from everything else we've seen. It's more like a watercolor paint style, which I think is super great. The artist is super, super talented with what they're delivering here. I think it's super awesome. And it's also told in a little bit of like a horror pseudo psychological take, which I don't know how to say psychological to it, but I do think it has horror aspects of it, which I think is awesome. And another take is that it's entirely set in Japan so far. It seems like it's set on a version of the New Mutants, right? I think the main character is Armor. Awesome character, awesome, awesome character. I really loved her in the um, New Mutants runs, and then the Krakoa stuff. Um, she's like the main character. And then I think most of the X-Men in the series of this is just girls, which is, fine. And then it's just pretty decent take. I think it's pretty cool twist. I'm really excited to see where it goes. Um, there's like a shorter run that's just started, and it's the Wolverine run. I really can't say too much because it's actually a really cool twist on Wolverine for this world, and I'm really excited to see where this character goes. They do a lot of really cool twists, but there's only like two issues there, and a really good bridge into that, like to start out the Wolverine, is to read Ultimate Universe 1 year in. This is a one shot. It completely focuses on, I'll say it, Nick Fury, which is so cool. It has one of the coolest stories I've seen for a variant character in a long time. I think it's super awesome what they do with this version of Nick Fury. And I'm really excited to see what kind of actions take from there play out in the rest of the comic series. And there's like the overall Avengers comic, which is called The Ultimates, which is, it's pretty cool. It has a really cool fight with Hulk. Hulk is a villain in this. That's all I'm gonna say. He has some other powers, and that's really just it. That's probably my only favorite thing about it so far. Um, I'd probably rank it in the order I gave it to you guys, and maybe Ultimate Universe 1 year in is probably like my secret favorite, just because it's such a cool thing. It's such a cool one shot. I love it. I kind of wish they would do more stories like that, just really quick and easy to digest stories that aren't like super long or dragged out. But it is what it is. You can't really pick or choose. But I am enjoying like the issue by issue comic reading that I've been doing. It's not really something that I've been super keen in the past, especially with like some of the much longer form comics. The Ultimate Universe is a really great fresh take on it, which is great. And again, the Absolute series is just the same. It's just different versions of the heroes that we are acquainted to, and they're in the same world. So eventually we do have the Ultimates, and not all the Ultimate Marvel characters on that team. Spider-Man, Black Panther, the X-Men, and Wolverine. But I imagine eventually, the second they do, mixed in with the current already established roster of the Ultimates, it's gonna be so sick. It'll be so cool. And the same thing with the Absolute series. We have Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, but once we get Green Lantern and the Flash, Martian Manhunter, it's gonna be sick. There's already like a prequel or tease thing for the Flash that's at the back of Wonder Woman, and the Flash one seems really cool. Just to lastly talk about Marvel, the Daredevil Cold Day in Hell comic seems to be getting like the Dark Knight Returns treatment. So I'm gonna try and keep an eye out on that one because that seems really really cool. I like the Dark Knight Returns comic. This is probably an older version of Daredevil, and that seems really really great. Um, so we do comics and we also do manga. So did read much manga. We had Chainsaw Man 194. It was, pretty entertaining. There's, kind of an allusion to what could happen next issue or chapter. But this one was kind of like a slower chapter, nothing we talk about. But One Piece 1141. Dude, the moment is here. The moment is here with a certain potentially villain happening on the island of Elbath. So I really won't say what happens just because it's literally just came out like yesterday. But man, I am so hyped to see what's going to happen after these consequences. Um, One Piece is so fun. One Piece is such a crazy ride, and these new revelations that just keep happening in the world, it makes it more enjoyable. Because it honestly makes sense. It seems like this is actually a really, really real story that was, you know, written well, thought out, planned. I look at things like some other stories that really aren't like that, and thinking about the legacy of One Piece, how long this story's been told for, what might have changed, what might have like been different. I know that like writers like George R. R. Martin try to maybe divert maybe the expectations of what fans are guessing for that. So maybe this isn't the case for One Piece, but I'd just be happy if the One Piece is a picture of Goldbeard's friends, Roger's friends, or just a big pile of gold, right? I don't really care. The ride that One Piece delivered for it was so good. I think the mystery of One Piece will be like an ever changing thing on anime, regardless of what it is. Um, that's just me. I just think that's gonna be a really big thing. I don't think anything else is as big in anime except for maybe like Dragon Ball, right? I really don't think there anything is. Maybe Naruto, but like Boruto's really fallen off super hard. Um, yeah, One Piece had a really great time. I love that the characters call them like ultra rare versions of them, so like ultra rare Nami, ultra rare Straw Hats. I think that's really funny. The giant island has been so great. Usopp finally gets to like just be here and meet the giants. He's been hearing these giant stories forever. Um, yeah, it's just nice. This is One Piece is one of like the coolest stories ever to enjoy. And we'll round up on an anime show soon, but two other shows that are really good. Yellow Jackets at one episode 4 of season 3, and first two episodes really so fucking boring, but 3 and 4 really really great. So it actually picked up the momentum a lot. I'm a lot more enthusiastic about watching it now. I want to see where it goes. Yeah, the first episode was really really slow and just not the wave. They felt like just nothing. Um, And then the other show was Severance. Seventh episode, the seventh episode of Seventh came out on Friday, and man, that was a kind of a heartbreaking episode. Really, truly, truly heartbreaking. Um, yeah, if you're not caught up with Severance, you had better. You had really better. The last show we have to talk about before we end the whole episode is Dragon Ball Daima. I've been looking so forward to talking about this show for so long because, as we got to like the winding down of the season, we definitely didn't know what was going to happen with its ending, right? How it was going to maybe shock us or surprise us. We probably assumed, and like any other Dragon Ball spin-off movie kind of ending, the villain dies maybe, and then things go back to normal. But nah, the world of Dragon Ball is actually forever changed, like from this show. And I consider everything canon, right? I think canon is what you make it, especially if it's already written by like the main writer, the source material, the original creator of the franchise, or whatever. I don't care. This has always been canon to me, and now I just have two canons, GT and Daima. I couldn't care less. No one cares. It really isn't a big deal. It's just cool to have more, right? Like if you can play games like Dragon Ball Xenoverse or the MMO or anything like that, I think that you can really just accept like these spin-off things being fun, adding to the world, and just being enjoyable. Super Saiyan 4, Super Saiyan 3 being added for like two of the coolest characters is super awesome. Just to even like just have that, even if we don't see it ever again. I know there's that big discrepancy of Goku in Battle of the Gods saying, "This is my highest transformation, my strongest form." Uh, yeah, hey, who cares? Maybe he wanted to hold back. Maybe he couldn't do it. Maybe he didn't master it. Who could really say? I'm not really, gonna nitpick on the timeline of Dragon Ball. I could care less, right? I have two versions of Broly in my canon. Super Broly is awesome, but Z Broly is also just canon to me. I don't care. BoJack's canon. Uh, Metal Cooler is canon. Super 18 is canon, or was it Super 16? The trucker hat one. 13, Android 13, Super Android 13. So yeah, I'm actually really glad Dragon Ball Daima came out, and now that it's over, it has me even more excited for the Super return, the manga return. We already had chapter 104, and we're gonna get five sometime down the line eventually. Um, then of like a volume, they already kind of announced they're gonna do a volume, so who knows if there's like a hiatus or something. But I'm so looking forward to the return of Dragon Ball. It's gonna be so fun to talk about it here on the podcast, and I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but we have got to end this episode. So I will see you all next Monday. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like the episode, if you like what I talk about, if you want to see more of me talking about these comic runs, these mangas, these very long mangas, and anything else. I'll be here playing games, doing what I do. Peace.